Why don't you make yourself useful, Casey? Maybe refill the breadbasket? The sentence stings more than it should, probably because it comes from my mom, said with a smile in front of everyone. My brother Derek laughs, not even looking at me as he adjusts his new lieutenant badge like it's a crown. The others, cousins, old neighbors, some of his police academy buddies, are too busy raising glasses to notice the way the blood drains from my face. But I don't move. Not right away. I just watch. The restaurant they rented out is loud with celebratory noise, wood-paneled walls, bourbon in every glass, the scent of money and ego. I'm standing near the coat rack like a ghost, clutching my purse. No name tag, no seat at the table. Just the family disappointment, apparently. Have you ever walked into a room where you used to belong, only to realize that somewhere along the way, they took your name off the list? If you've ever been dismissed by the people who were supposed to be your foundation, I see you. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Say, listening, if you've ever been called worthless and then proved them dead wrong. Now, let's listen to my story journey. It's been 10 years since I left Houston without warning. No goodbye, no long note, just disappeared. And while I never explained myself, I never expected this cold shoulder to stretch an entire decade. Derek was the golden child, captain of the debate team, quarterback, then top of his academy class. He always wanted to be a cop like Dad. I never wanted a badge. I wanted a voice. But when I cracked, when I had that panic attack during junior year midterms, cried in front of a counselor, confessed I didn't think I wanted this life, I was quietly labeled unfit. Too sensitive, my mom whispered to her friends. She can't handle pressure, Derek told anyone who'd listen. So I vanished, left town, changed numbers, took nothing but a burner phone and a secret I'd never say out loud. I wasn't running away. I was running towards something else. And now, 10 years later, I'm back in this room being asked to fetch the bread. I nod. I go to the kitchen. I do the thing they think I was built for. Staying quiet. Staying helpful. But then, my backup phone buzzes in my pocket. It's not the one they know. It's the one with no contacts, no ringtone. Just a single encrypted line with one job. I pull it from the inside pocket of my trench coat. One message, OPS active, priority, Coral Vale. Meet point 48H, Fort Kelman, TX, level 4 authorization. I exhale slowly, like I'm letting go of a version of myself they never saw. I place the breadbasket back on the table. Derek doesn't even glance up. Thanks, Case. He mumbles, already moving on to another war story. I leave quietly, unmissed. Outside, the Houston air is sticky and electric. I grip the car keys in my palm and walk toward the rental. In the driver's seat, I pull out my ID wallet, the one no one in my family's ever seen. No photo, just a gold foil seal and a single call sign. Agent C. Donahue, Department of Homeland Security. Clearance tier. FIOR. They called me worthless. They called me weak. But in 2 days, I'll walk onto a base where I outrank everyone who ever laughed at me. I start the engine. A bluesy static hums on the radio. My fingers drum the steering wheel. My pulse is calm. And somewhere deep inside, that voice that used to ask, "What if they're right about me?" finally shuts up. It started the night I walked out of my parents' house with nothing but a duffel bag and the address of a motel in Albuquerque. I remember the motel number, room 8. I remember the rust-colored stain on the bedspread, the humming ice machine outside the door, and the silence. That brutal, absolute silence you get when no one even notices you're gone. They thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was, but not the way they imagined. I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to keep living someone else's plan. So, yeah. I left ROTC. I left pre-law. I left Texas. I took a bus north, working side jobs under fake names, sleeping in hostels, watching and waiting. And then, one night in Omaha, a woman in a gray coat approached me in a diner after watching me break up a fight in the parking lot. Said she was with Homeland Security, but not the part most people knew. Said they needed people like me, observers, quiet thinkers, people who weren't afraid to disappear. I remember laughing. You want the girl who flunked out of college and got kicked out of her own family? She just smiled. Exactly. And just like that, I joined a program called Courtroom, not official, not on any recruitment site. You got in through whispers and burned memos. We trained for 14 months underground, literal bunkers, fluorescent lights, drills that ran until your brain screamed. They erased my identity, issued me a new one. From then on, I was Cass Donahue, field analyst, decryption, urban recon. I didn't carry a weapon, I carried access. I could enter a building without a trace, leave with 3 terabytes of intelligence, and vanish before the elevator doors closed. My job wasn't to make noise. It was to see everything and say nothing. Over the years, I worked 6 cities under 6 covers. I watched cartels swap hands in front of suburban bakeries. I traced smuggled cash through crypto laundries in Vancouver. I got close to people who would have shot me if they knew my name, and I never broke. Not once. But I also never told anyone. No phone calls, no letters, no Facebook updates. I didn't exist. Until a month ago, when a photo of Derek showed up in a briefing packet, standing beside a precinct chief under federal investigation for data tampering. That was the first time in years I whispered his name out loud. It's what triggered this new assignment. That's why I'm driving now toward Fort Kelman, 2 hours southwest of Austin, where a special cadet program runs advanced law enforcement simulations for the DoD. Derek's unit is currently embedded there for Tactical Synergy Exchange, or some flashy PR name. But that's not what I'm after. A ghost protocol flagged someone inside the base attempting to access a classified chain, one I helped design, one that should have been retired years ago. And the signature? The digital tag that pinged my clearance? It was mine. Or at least, it used to be. Someone's impersonating me, or tripped something they never meant to. Either way, it means I'm not just returning to the field. I'm returning to where I buried the old me. I arrive at the base in the early morning hours. A dusty gold light creeps across the hills, low fog curling off the training fields. At the security checkpoint, I don't show a badge. I give them a code. The guard scans it, hesitates, then waves me through without another word. I park near the southern range, just behind a line of black SUVs. I've got my hair tied back, tactical shades on, button-up shirt crisp, no insignia visible. From a distance, I watch them line up. Rows of recruits in fatigues, guns slung, boots sharp. And standing dead center in the field, my brother, Derek. Still tall, still smug, shouting commands like he invented the concept of leadership. He doesn't see me. He won't. Not yet. Instead, I walk to the bleachers, where a few admin staff and observers are seated. I blend in. A man beside me passes a clipboard. You part of the DOJ audit? Cybercrime liaison. I lie easily, keeping my voice low. Don't need to be on the schedule. He shrugs, keeps writing. Then, about 20 minutes into drills, something shifts. A voice cuts across the field, sharp and low. Hold fire. Everyone freezes. It's not Derek. It's the range commander, Chief Barnes, a man who hasn't missed a day of training in 12 years. He walks toward the bleachers, eyes narrowing. And then he stops, looks directly at me, then salutes. Ma'am, he says, loud enough for half the range to hear. Didn't expect your arrival this early. Silence. Every boot stands still, every eye swivels. Derek turns, confused. looks at me, squints. Then, recognition. Not full, but something. The recruits start whispering. Barnes leans in. Shall I clear the range for your assessment? I shake my head once. No. Let them finish. I'm just observing today. He nods sharply and turns away. But the damage is done. The silence doesn't fade for a long time. And Derek? He can't stop staring. The drills resume like nothing happened, but they don't feel the same. There's a tension hanging over the field now, like static before a storm. I stay seated, legs crossed, expression unreadable behind dark glasses, but I can feel it. The weight of every glance tossed in my direction, the uncertainty threading through the recruits' movements. They're no longer just performing drills, they're performing for me, and Derek knows it. He tries to regain control, barking orders sharper than before, pacing harder, shoulders tense. He's good at looking confident, always has been. But confidence built on image doesn't hold up well under heat. Especially not the heat of realizing your useless sister just got saluted by a man you probably admire. I remain for another 30 minutes, watching as they wrap up the exercises and head to gear debrief. I leave the bleachers before Derek can approach, slipping around the side of the training shed and back toward the admin block. Inside, I badge into a secure hallway. No signage, no directory. Just a retinal scanner and a double buzz lock. The room I enter is plain, cold, and humming with low servers. 3 monitors line the far wall, all displaying static script. A woman stands up from behind the desk. Agent Donahue, you're late. Just making an entrance, I reply, pulling the door shut behind me. This is Amari Yu, lead systems analyst for Coral Vale's Residual Command. One of the few people alive who still calls me by my op name. She slides a file across the desk. We logged an access spike 4 days ago. Shadowpath 17. Someone tried to scrape protocol remnants from a dormant file tree. From here? I ask, flipping the file open. She nods. From inside Fort Kelman, the address resolves to a training comm tablet. Standard issue. Who was assigned the tablet? Her face flickers. Derek W. Donahue. Of course. I lean back, let the name sit between us. I doubt he knew what he was accessing, I murmur. Amari doesn't disagree. But intent doesn't matter to the system. What he tripped activated a secondary key. One of yours. I exhale slowly. This is worse than I thought. Have we contained it? I ask. Not fully. Your credentials were ghosted, yes, but the signal was forwarded to a proxy node. A very old one. We're trying to trace the hot path. And if someone planted the breach? Amari's expression hardens. Then someone wanted you exposed. I close the file, blood humming cold through my hands. I should report Derek. He accessed a classified shell with my identifier. That alone is a federal infraction. But I know he didn't do it maliciously. Hell, he probably just connected his training device to an old cloud archive and clicked the wrong line. He never was good with tech. Still, the protocol is clear. But instead of filing the report, I ask Amari for something else. Give me access to the diagnostic mirrors. I want to trace the code myself. She hesitates, but nods. You'll have 24 hours before a red flag gets kicked up the chain. I only need 12. I leave through a side door, my mind running through permutations. I'm not angry with Derek. Not exactly. I'm angry that this is how he finally sees me. Through salutes and secret halls. Through accident and implication. Not as a sister. Not as someone who survived. Back at the base housing, I use a side access tunnel to reach the old officer quarters, where I've been given a secure suite under an alias. The room is clean, but impersonal. Military standard. No mirrors, no pictures. Just a cot, a desk, and a single black duffel in the corner. That duffel is the same one I carried into Albuquerque 10 years ago. I unzip it. Inside, everything is still in place. Burner drive, lockpad phone, a coded tablet with scrubbed internals. I boot it up and begin to trace. The signal doesn't lie. Whoever received that ping, they were waiting. The echo wasn't random. The virus didn't launch until after the training tablet connected, like a digital tripwire. Meaning, someone planted the hook, knowing someone else would activate it. Meaning, I wasn't the target, but I was the bait. A knock rattles the door. I don't answer. Just wait. A pause. Then a voice. Cass? I freeze. No one here should know that name. I open the door slowly. It's Derek. No uniform, just a hoodie and old track pants. Hair wet from a shower, eyes unsure. I figured out where they sent you, he says, like it's some kind of badge of honor. I step back. Let him in. Don't say a word. He walks around like he's seeing a museum exhibit. His eyes fall on the duffel, the unlocked device, the faint glow of code across the screen. I didn't know, he says quietly. Any of this. I nod. You weren't supposed to. He shifts. That guy. The one who saluted you. The commander. He told me not to ask questions. Smart man. Derek swallows. I used that tablet last week. From the locker. I was trying to look up some old videos from cadet school. It froze. I didn't think anything of it. I study his face. Honest, but scared. What did it show? I ask. He shakes his head. Nothing. Just a weird black screen. Then it powered off. I believe him. But the system doesn't care about belief. Only access. Only exposure. I shut the laptop. You need to tell me everything you touched, I say, calm but firm. Because I'm not just cleaning up after family anymore. I'm standing on the edge of something that smells like sabotage. And someone, somewhere, is hoping I fall. Derek paces while I sit perfectly still. He's listing off everything he remembers. Time, date, what apps he opened, even the music that played in the background. I record it all. Not because I don't trust him, but because every keystroke matters when you're playing with fire. And this isn't a mistake. It's a fuse someone wanted lit. The deeper I dig into the trace logs, the clearer the pattern becomes. A dormant fragment of code piggybacked onto a diagnostic shell. Non-lethal, non-obvious. But when Derek's training device, assigned randomly, supposedly wiped, pinged the old archive, it cracked the shell, which triggered the failsafe, and broadcasted my retired credentials through a ghosted channel. Amari sends me a secure update via dead drop inbox. The packet includes a list of fallback IP addresses. One of them, resolves to a location I know too well. An old case file, a burner facility. One we shut down 4 years ago after a botched internal review. The last known admin on that node? Colin Vega. The name hits like ice to the throat. Colin and I used to work side by side before his clearance was pulled for misuse of surveillance tech during a domestic operation. The official report buried the real reason. He'd been caught selling off timing schedules of federal asset movements. In simpler terms, he tried to traffic my identity to the highest bidder. We buried the breach, claimed it was procedural mismanagement. The government hates scandal. But I never forgot. Now here he is again. My voice when I call Amari is flat. He's back. She already knows. And he's not working alone. We found mirrored login attempts in DC, San Antonio, and one odd hit in Reykjavik. Diversion? Possibly. Or he's sending out bait, using your name to access sealed protocols. I exhale through my nose. He's not done. No, but if this escalates, she warns, they'll suspend you. Full investigation, tribunal, and he'll have already ghosted by then. I look over at Derek, now asleep on the cot, legs dangling, arms crossed, still in that half-alert posture trained into law enforcement types. He has no idea how close he came to igniting a war. But it's not his fault. It's mine. I left a trail. A small one, but enough. And Colin picked it up. I shut the laptop and prep a hard drive copy. We need to find his signal in real time. There's no more hiding. I'm past cleanup now. I'm in chase mode. The next morning, I make a direct request to visit the off-site satellite uplink outside Fort Kelman. It's disguised as a weather monitoring facility, but we all know better. Derek offers to drive. I want to say no, but I say yes. He doesn't talk much on the way. Neither do I. But there's something in the air now. Something thawing. He still doesn't understand me, but he finally knows he doesn't. That's more than I've ever gotten from my family. The uplink is 2 stories of steel and desert dust. Inside, the techs barely glance at me once I flash my clearance. We head down into the basement where the walls sweat with condensation and the servers hum with secrets. I plug in the drive, feed it to the trace program. Within seconds, the interface lights up. A connection attempt? Live. Colin's signature. He's tunneling through one of the older shadow nodes trying to access simulation override keys. That's not just data theft. That's groundwork for real-world control. Drones, defensive AI models. Worst case? Remote command to force automated systems into fail states that mimic enemy behavior. It would make it look like a national training breakdown, while wiping out our own infrastructure, and all using my name. Amari's voice crackles through the comms. Cass, it's started. He's launched phase 2. How much time? Maybe 30 minutes before internal triggers red flag the base and lock you out. Which means if I don't move now, I'll be labeled as the attacker, not the one trying to stop it. Derek is beside me, watching me type like I'm defusing a bomb. Can I help? He asks, breath shallow. I want to snap. Say no. Say this isn't your world. But I don't. Instead, I pass him a terminal. Look for any incoming pings from this node ID. I write it down. Call out anything that ends in a hex 9 string. He nods, fingers trembling but steady enough to begin. We work in tandem. We don't talk. We just trace. And 5 minutes in, he says, I've got something. I look. And there it is. An address. A physical address. Barely masked by a rotating proxy string. 204 Crescent Hollow RD. Just off base. It's a private residence. And registered to a civilian contractor. Name, Emil Grant. Alias, age, 45. Real name, Colin Vega. He's right outside our perimeter. I slam the terminal shut, send the coordinates to Amari. She'll notify internal response teams, but I already know they won't get there fast enough. So I grab my coat, and Derek grabs his. You don't have to come, I say. Yeah, he says, but I think I should. We don't even speak the rest of the drive, because we both know what's waiting at the end of this road. One man, one lie, and one last chance to stop the story from being rewritten, with me as the villain. The road to Crescent Hollow is quiet, too quiet for what we're about to walk into. Dust kicks up from the tires as Derek pulls into a half-paved driveway, headlights flashing across a tan stucco house with blackout curtains drawn over every window. Not a single porch light. No sign of life. But I know he's in there. There's a signal flare of knowledge you get after enough years undercover. The air gets heavier. Sounds drop into silence, like the whole world is holding its breath. I step out first. Derek moves to follow. Wait, I tell him. He stops but doesn't retreat. He's not just tagging along anymore. He's standing by choice, not obligation. And I clock that, even as I reach into my coat and grip the drive key. It's not a weapon, but it's something Colin doesn't expect. An override seed I built back during a brief posting in Langley. Useless in civilian systems. Perfect for baiting a ghost like Colin. I approach the door. No knock. Just a calm press of my thumbprint into the side panel, an invisible reader used by asset houses. The lock disengages. The hallway smells like dust and machine oil. Too clean, too arranged. He's waiting. I move forward, through the narrow corridor, into the room at the back. And there he is. Sitting at a desk with 3 stacked monitors, code streaming like a river of lies. Colin Vega. Older now, but still smug. That scar above his lip twitching with each subtle grin. "You look tired," he says casually. "You look caught." He chuckles. "Oh, Cass, still the same edge? Still the same voice? They sent you again, didn't they? Should have known." I don't flinch. I don't smile. I don't banter. "What's the endgame?" I ask. He leans back. "Same as always. Burn the system down before it eats the rest of us alive. You used my name to do it." He shrugs. "Because it still means something." I glance at the screen. "You've got 30 seconds before everything you're touching gets swallowed by my patch." His face hardens. "What patch?" I flick the drive from my coat, toss it toward the main console. It lands like a dropped grenade. He stands. Fast, but not fast enough. The patch auto-executes, hijacking the signal and feeding it into a phantom framework. All he sees is a copy of the control protocol, while the real system locks him out and reroutes the breach path to a virtual dead end. "You're not just locked out," I say. "You're archived." His hand twitches toward his pocket. My voice sharpens. "Don't." Behind me, I hear the crunch of gravel. Derek. Moving up. Colin glares. "You brought backup?" "No," I say. "I brought my brother." That gets him. He snorts. "Cute. He doesn't even know who you are." "He didn't," I say softly. "But he's learning." There's a moment, just a sliver of time, where Colin looks truly shaken. Not because of the patch, not even because of the risk of arrest, but because the girl he once tried to erase is still standing and no longer alone. The front door bursts open. Tactical teams flood in, weapons raised but non-lethal. Derek steps aside as they move past him like he's just another wall. Colin doesn't resist. He's not stupid. But as they cuff him, he glances over at me, his voice low. "You think they'll believe you? After what I've got in storage, you think you'll keep that rank once they see what you've buried?" I lean in, just enough for my breath to ghost past his ear. "You should have aimed for someone who didn't build the system." They drag him out, and I exhale. But it's not over. That night, back at Fort Kelman, the tribunal order comes in. It's fast. Too fast. They want answers before the breach trail gets cold. A courtroom inside the perimeter is already being assembled. 2 military auditors, 1 Homeland rep, 1 civilian cyber forensics officer, and me, front and center. Derek offers to testify. I tell him no. "I'm not doing this to get you to believe in me," I say. "I'm doing it because I refuse to let him turn me into his shadow." He nods. "Then let me be your witness." For once, I let someone help. The next morning, I step into a room lined with dark wood, steel chairs, and eyes that have already decided what they want to see. Colin sits smugly, hands folded, civilian suit stiff with arrogance. I wear my standard issue suit. No pins, no ribbons, just the weight of a decade no one saw. The hearing begins. "Agent Cass Donahue," one of the tribunal officers begins. "You stand here accused of unauthorized clearance retention, misuse of archived protocols, and potential domestic sabotage via simulated override paths." I let them speak. Then I speak back. I hand over the drive, the logs, the terminal strings, the camera footage, the patch trail, the packet headers, and finally, 1 audio file. My voice. From years ago. Recorded in Langley, during my simulation training. Authorization key, Donahue X. If this failsafe activates without me, consider the system compromised. Do not trust the access string. It will lie. Trace the echo. Burn the ghost. They play it in full. Then silence. And the courtroom falls still. The same kind of still that once met me at family dinners when no one looked up from their plates. But this time, they're all looking. And they're waiting for me. Silence in a courtroom can mean many things. Fear, disbelief, or recognition, the kind that drops into a room like a stone into water, rippling through every corner and breaking whatever certainty was there before. This silence is that third kind, the kind that means everyone here just realized the story isn't the one they thought they came to hear. The military auditor clears his throat. Agent Donahue, can you confirm the patch was created solely by you during classified operations under the Coral Veil Initiative? Yes, I say. No theatrics, just truth. Before the initiative was decommissioned, I was assigned to architecture development. My protocols weren't just used, they were manipulated by someone who knew my markers, my habits, someone who once shared access with me. The Homeland rep looks over the flash drive again, scrolling through a log of terminal entries with my name at the top. Entries we now know Colin mimicked. I have to ask, he says slowly. Why didn't you come forward earlier when the first breach was detected? I pause. There's a long breath of memory stuck in my ribs. Because I was tired of being a ghost, I say. Tired of being used only when convenient, then forgotten until someone needs a shield. I didn't think anyone would listen. Colin chuckles across the room. He's still trying to bait me. Or maybe, he says, you just didn't want them to find out what else is in those logs. Not just ghost patches and failsafes, but what you allowed, what you watched happen in the field and chose not to report. The room tightens. I don't flinch. I reach into my folder and slide a printed transcript forward, one no one else here expected. Operation Inland Echo, I say, March 2019, rural Colorado, surveillance of a suspect who turned out to be innocent. I filed a silent objection, pushed for a second scan, but I was overruled. The civilian analyst narrows his eyes. That operation is sealed. Not to me, I say, because I still carry the memory of what didn't happen, of the raid that got called off because of a delay I created. And then I pull the next document, signed by the chief field officer, authorizing the very delay that saved a family of 5 from being misidentified as domestic threats. Colin's smirk fades. You think I stayed silent because I had something to hide, I say. But I stayed silent because every time I spoke up, people like him tried to erase me. The Homeland rep leans back. For the first time, his face softens. And yet, here you are. Because someone used my name, I say. And for once, I refuse to be the invisible one in the report. Then, slowly, Derek stands. He's seated behind me, dressed in his full academy uniform. No one asked him to speak, but no one stops him. My name is Officer Derek Donahue, he says, voice surprisingly calm. And I can verify the incident that led to this breach was my doing. I accessed a device left in a shared family space without understanding its contents. My actions unintentionally triggered the protocol. But everything that happened afterward, she didn't cause it. She prevented it. He holds up a copy of the logs. My sister stood between a system failure and a federal disaster, and she never once made me feel like the mistake was mine to carry. The tribunal officer raises a brow. You're her brother? Yes, sir, Derek says. And for most of my life, I was taught to be ashamed of her. But sitting in this room, I've never been more proud of anyone. Another silence. But this one is warmer. Colin knows it's over. He leans back. They'll forget you again, he mutters. The world only remembers what it's told to. I finally turn to look at him. Then I'll keep doing the work they never see. The tribunal breaks for 10 minutes. When they return, their decision is unanimous. All charges against me, dismissed. Rank, reinstated. Clearance, renewed. And then they hand me something I never expected, an invitation to speak. At the Cyber Warfare Leadership Summit in DC, a keynote, a chance to set the record straight, they say. I stand, hold the invitation in my hand, and let it settle over me. Not because I want the attention, but because maybe, for the first time, telling the truth doesn't feel like a liability. Derek meets me outside the courtroom, his shoulders looser than I've ever seen them. You did it, he says. I shake my head. We did. He hesitates, then hands me something, a badge, silver, unofficial, a replica of the coral veil insignia. I had it made, he says. Didn't know if you'd want it. I take it slowly, and for the first time, I let him hug me. No words, just recognition, just breath, just family, rebuilt from the wreckage. 3 weeks later, I stand behind the curtains of the East Auditorium at the Cyber Warfare Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. Beyond the velvet folds is a sea of uniforms, analysts, foreign attachés, media liaisons, and a dozen faces I used to only know by code names. The stage glows a soft white, a single podium. No banners, no flags, just one line on the projection screen above. The invisible armor, silence, integrity, and what it costs. I was told I could have a speechwriter. I declined. I was told I could wear my ribbons. I didn't. What I wear is simple. Navy blazer, flat black slacks, and a pin on my lapel. Not my coral veil insignia, something smaller, the silver badge Derek gave me. I hear my name called and the room quiets like someone pulled the air out of it. I walk forward. The stage feels larger than it is. Not because of the size, but because, for most of my career, I was trained not to stand here. We were taught to observe, not be observed. But I take the mic, and I don't smile. I begin. You don't have to be seen to serve. You don't have to be praised to be proud. And you don't have to be remembered to know that you made something safer by simply standing in the way. No one shifts. No one checks their phone. I tell them about what it means to build systems that disappear when they work and destroy everything when they don't. About the price of trust when your name is only mentioned in case of emergency. I never name Colin. I don't name Derek either. But I speak about the people we protect, the ones who never know we're there, the ones who go on believing systems protect them, without ever seeing the face of the person who made sure they could sleep safely. I end with this. I never asked for applause. I just asked for the right to finish what I started. And now that I have, I choose silence again. Not because I'm afraid, but because I finally remember why I spoke in the first place. When I step down, no one claps right away. They stand. All at once. The sound builds not like thunder, but like wind pushing through 1,000 leaves. Quiet, reverent, rising. A salutation, not just for me, but for what it took to survive the silence. After the summit, I'm offered an official public profile, a chance to set the record straight in national archives. I turn it down. Instead, I submit an anonymous white paper, signed only with a shadow mark, detailing the Coral Veil Protocol and the ethical failures we narrowly avoided. No photo, no name, just a sentence at the end. If history remembers anything, let it be that integrity often walks alone, but never without impact. I leave DC by train. Not jet, not escorted vehicle. Just a quiet ride along steel tracks through a countryside that doesn't know or care who I am. That's the peace I fought for. Back in Houston, I don't return to my family's home. I don't walk back into Derek's precinct. Instead, I leave an envelope at my parents' door. Inside, a letter. Not an explanation. Just a moment of truth. You didn't raise a failure. You just didn't recognize what strength looks like when it doesn't wear a uniform you approve of. I never hear back. But I don't need to. Because a month later, I get a photo in a plain email. No subject line. Just a picture. Derek. Standing at a cadet graduation. On his chest, the silver badge. Mine. He's not wearing it like it's his. He's carrying it. For the first time in my life, I feel like I've passed something on that wasn't pain. The mission isn't over. Not the quiet ones. Not the ones that come without medals. Not the ones that leave your name erased from every wall. But that's okay. Because some victories don't belong on stone. They live in memory. They live in silence. And they endure long after the noise is gone. Thank you for listening. If this story meant something to you, leave a comment. Share your moment of silence, or tell me what you're still standing for. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is keep walking, silently, always forward.